Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to High G's on Thursday evening. This evening, the 7th of April, it's 8 p.m, and I'm really excited about introducing tonight's guest. And I think of everybody that I've had on the show, the way in which I met this evening's guest still fascinates me today. It's cool, so I'm going to tell you. I was sent a like a flyer, or I can't even remember how it happened. I think it was one of my nephews, or maybe my sister-in-law, who's from the northeast of England, Skelton, in Cleveland in particular, had sent me a message to let me know that there was an evening of boxing entertainment, not boxing, but a boxer was being, it was an audience with kind of night. In their local pub. And I just had to come when I found out that the boxer that was being interviewed was no less challenger for the middleweight world championship on certainly one occasion, but he was European middleweight champion. We know this. I can see my guest nodding his head, so I know I've got this right. And this evening's guest had brought him to Skelton in Cleveland and to the Hollybush pub, no less, for an evening's entertainment with Wayne Alexander the Great, ex-boxer. On the evening, it was really informal, but so well organised. I'd go and had a chat with the gentleman that was arranging it. Well, I'd spoken to him before, got on with him, hit it off with like a house on fire. He got me clued up for a wee interview with Wayne Alexander as well. I've stayed in touch on Twitter with him. And since that night, this evening's guest has gone on to, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're just talking in the green room there about 22, 23 books written. But he'll tell us what, he's got on the go as well, because I think another 2 or 3 in the making, some documentaries already made, and more on the way. A fascinating guest for you tonight, no less. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the northeast of England, and I'll not pinpoint exactly where, because you'll guess very soon. Welcome to the JFDI podcast, Mr. Jamie Boyle. Hello.
Always a pleasure, Graham, talking to you. Thank you very much for having me. It was about 8 years ago when we did that an evening with Wayne Alexander. May 2014, so it was coming up for 8 years ago, which is
long ago.
Yeah. Yes, so I've kept in touch with you since then, and it's always a pleasure. I watch a lot of your stuff, mate, and so thank you. Absolute no problem at all.
Oh, listen, I can't wait to get stuck in, because what I said on the schedule, like I put out on Facebook, I was like, we're going to talk tunes, but Jamie's he's a writer, avid, and this is, I know, an avid music fan and a sports fan across the board, but the book's predominantly written about boxing, but there's some football in there, some crime books that you've written as well. So a vast array, and we'll get into that at some point in time. However, have you been on a podcast and where it's been a bit like modern day Desert Island Discs? Because that's kind of what this is. Where I just ask you for tunes. So you've given me 5 tunes, and we'll talk about them, what they mean to you, a little bit of any stories related to them and what they remind you of at that kind of point in your life. So I'm excited to get going. So we kick off. So we kick off with your first tune.
Yeah, go on then.
Go on. Were you going to say something?
Well, my favourite song, I suppose, and it's kind of, it sounds a bit sinister and weird, but it's my funeral song, and I've actually got the lyrics tattooed on my left foot. So obviously, I'm a big, huge Morrissey fan. I don't know whether you can see him in the background.
Oh yeah.
So there's a song called "There Is a Light That Never Goes Out." So I've got the lyrics on my foot. Huge George Michael fan as well. You might be able to see him. I think he's behind there somewhere. So one of my wedding songs was Amazing by George Michael. Love George Michael. What else? The Whole of the Moon.
Yeah.
That's the title of my biggest seller. Sold tens of thousands now. Made lots of money for charity. Obviously, it's about Lee Duffy. I'm a Celtic fanatic. You know, lived in Scotland. Parents are Scottish. You know, so obviously I get the fields of and Ryan there. And Depeche Mode. Enjoy the Silence. That reminds me of going to Celtic games when I was a kid. I think it was out about 1990, 1991. Music is a big part of my life. I listen to it every day when I'm down and depressed. You know, I'll put music on which probably people will think, hang on a minute, you're a bit down. So what do you want to listen to Morrissey for? Or Will Young? But yeah, do you know what? Music is it's always great to get really high on. It lifts your spirits. And you know, it's just a huge part in everyone's life. And if it's not, it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is it? Because I've met a lot of people that specifically when they feel really low, I'm kind of one of the others. When I listen, if I'm really low, I want to listen to something to kind of lift me up. However, I get the other side as well. And a lot of my friends in the 90s used to say to me that when they were feeling a bit down, they would listen to like Radiohead or the Smiths. And I'd be like exactly the same. So what is it about listening to that sort of kind of music that makes you feel better?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the Smiths or Morrissey, I mean, that's kind of more your generation. You know, the Smiths went from 83 to 87, so I was 3 to 7. Right. But you know, particularly someone like Morrissey, you can really sit back and think, hang on, this is an absolute great here. You know, yeah. Lyrical genius. When you listen to a lot of music, you know, my 14-year-old son was in the shower earlier, and I said to the wife, I said, have you heard the nonsense he's listened to? You know, but I think you can. Dominic Negus said to me that so sometimes when you're sad, I mean, Dominic's into. I mean, he'd be great for your podcast. You know, when you're sad, you understand the lyrics more. So if you listen to anyone as talented as George Michael, or Morrissey, or you know, even Will Young, or people like I'm very much into at the minute, it's just. You know, people think classical music is down and depressing and makes you suicidal. But listen, I listen to Pavarotti often, and I don't understand a word of what he's saying. But you know, there's a genius in there somewhere. And you know what? I'm 42 on Saturday, and I've got to the point now where I'm a fat middle-aged man, and I just want to be left alone in peace. And the music. You know, I mean, the wife takes a mick out of me because anything I do in life, whether I'm tidying up or hoovering, I have to do it with music. Yeah. So, you know, there's many times, 5 or 6 times a day when I look on my phone and think Spotify, and I'm looking for an album, you know, and music can take you back to certain points in your life. You know, if I listen to Supergrass, I'm 17 again. You know, it just tastes, you know, you go back to bad times in your life, good times in your life. And it's just something that we can all relate to, Graham.
Yeah. What would you say when it comes to music as you're going back to like Supergrass when you're like in your teens? What would you, we'll work back actually, let's do it this way. What advice in your teens, what advice would you give to 18-year-old Jamie Boyle?
You know, Summer, I wasted a lot of my years by, you know, being so serious in life, and you know, kind of getting kicked out of the army and ending up in young offenders and getting involved in so much nonsense. When do you know what? I don't think I actually got to about 36 and 37 and thought, do you know what, in life, not like Jim Morrison says, none of us are getting out of it alive. So just slow down and you know, even a dead fish will go with the flow. You know, there's a lot of things in life at the minute, like the Russians and COVID, that you can't do anything about. So if you can't do anything about it, just roll the punches in life. And you know, just there's nothing. Even if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, there's certain things in life that you're powerless. So I would say to myself, 18, just lighten up a bit and not put so much pressure on yourself. And you know, it's only now that I'm fat and middle-aged that I've got the total concept of it. But I wish I had done 25 years ago. But of course, hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? And you know, half the time we get stressed out, Graham, about things that 80% of it is never ever going to happen.
Yeah, Mark Twain, wasn't it, that said that some of the worst things we concocting up with our, was it something? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. We've got some viewers on the a comment from Gary. He said, middle-aged man. I want to grow old, but never grow up, springs to mind. Embrace it, buddy.
Yeah, fantastic words, Gary. Thank you.
There we go. So, if you think going even further back, by the way, I love that. I love that advice, and I think, are those words when you think though, and this is interesting. It's why I ask these questions. As an 18-year-old, and I've not asked this question before. So as an 18-year-old, how do you think you would have responded to that advice?
I'd have rolled my eyes and thought, shut up, you daft old something. Do you know what? I never really started taking life seriously till about 36, 37. I used to think we'd live forever. You know, I thought I was going to be a 30 waste forever. And all of a sudden, I've become this fat middle-aged man who has to dye your hair and all things that, you know, I thought, well, I'll be fit forever. I'll be a flyweight forever. And you quickly learn in your mid-30s that in actual fact, I used to look at people my age and I used to think they were born like that. I used to think I wouldn't dare be 40. Seriously, that was what I used to think when I was 20, 21. And now I know growing old and getting old and fat and all these things that we're having to deal with. I mean, I suffer from anxiety pretty bad at the minute. And, you know, but now I know it's a privilege denied to many. One of my books, the second one, supports the Bradley Lowry Foundation, God rest him.
Yeah.
And, you know, that little angel died 6-year-old 5 years ago. He's only be 11 now. And, you know, it's things like that, Graham, that you put life into perspective and think, you know what? So what if I'm not a spring chicken anymore? So what if I'm overweight? But that's the things that I would have probably been so obnoxious and rude. Probably up to about 5 or 6 years ago, where I'm starting to be mature now. And you know what Oscar Wilde said, you know, the young know everything. I mean, basically, when you get it, you know, it's like, I wish we knew what, like, at the end of your life, what you know at the start. So it's very, very unfair. But, you know, to put it in a nutshell, is just we've got to get through life and try and make as least amount of catastrophic car crashes. You know, we're all going to make this mistake. You know, you don't put your hand in the fire twice. You know, you trust people. There's a saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I've learned that. And it's a shame we didn't have that when your late teens and your 20s. But it's the nature of the beast, and it's such is life. And you know, there's me and you, and there's millions and billions around the world who we have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. What would you say on that? What would you say is the hardest, toughest lesson that you've had to learn in life?
Well, I mean, to be honest, 5 years ago, no one knew who I was. I've written 19 books to the week, like to the same week, and now everyone has an opinion of me. You know, and I read things online, and it's like you've just got to, you know, Martin Luther King said, "Show me a man who's got no haters, and I'll show you a guy who's got no success." So, you know what? You've just got to be comfortable in yourself, because there is people, I get it on a daily basis. And when I say a daily basis, I probably mean an hourly basis. I get the worst things said to me. You know, and they're from all over the country. I get some nice things, but you know, I always seem to remember, but it's such in life. And
is this sort of online kind of troll type, you know,
yeah,
is it book reviews and stuff like that? People following you and just giving you shit?
Yeah. You know what? I mean, anything worth doing in life doesn't come easy. And it comes with a cost. So if I've got like 10 Amazon bestsellers and 1 Waterstones bestseller, then, you know, because of the characters I've done, even though they've made registered charities loads of money, they're still really bad guys.
Yeah.
And you know, like these characters are, how can I say it? I mean, some of them are really bad, you know, but the interest has been there. Yeah. And it brings out different mixed emotions in people either way. So obviously I've had to deal with that. And, you know, some people are, I've been offered fights by old age pensioners and young teenagers. And, you know, yeah. I've only just got to grips with it in the last year, but it's been happening 5 years. And, you know, when I read things online, my first instinct is to reach out and say, well, I'm not actually like that.
Yeah.
But you know, you just can't. I spent a few days with Alex Reid the other week, cage fighter, married to Katie Price and all this. And he gets some horrendous things. And he said, you know what, I could go and squash him like a fly. But there's 1,000 million people. So, you know, but that's definitely been the biggest challenge, Graham, certainly in my adult life, where I've just got...
just get on with it.
I've just got to kind of just be calm and just think, you know what, don't look at it. You know, it's as I've got more well-known and probably more successful, the hate's gotten worse. Yeah. But, you know, a couple of months back, I got 3 in one day. And one was from a guy in Wigan, one was from a guy in Bournemouth, and one was from a guy in Harrogate. And they were saying the worst kind of things possible. Really as bad as it gets.
What kind of stuff? You want to give us any examples? Or
I hope you die of AIDS. I hope you die of cancer. Your son's this, your wife's this. You know, just you know, I'm praying for you to get cancer. And
gee whiz.
Just horrific things I couldn't even bring out.
Yeah,
I'm a sexual deviant. I'm a cross dresser. I'm a nonce. I'm a just unbelievable. Just things that you just think.
Yeah,
well, you just lost the word.
I think I obviously I can't. I don't have the same level of success there as you're talking about. However, it does resonate a little bit, because when I started to do a lot more sort of videos around sort of, you know, the kind of coaching for physical and mental well-being and launching sort of force forward coaching program, I was doing a lot of videos and I got quite a little bit. I got a lot. The thing for me is, and you'll get this as well. I got much more positive than I did negative. But I, for a little while, I really picked out the negative ones, and it really affected me. So if you're getting that regularly, then man, like Becky's saying, haters will always hate. Don't give them oxygen. And I think the thing that I've reconciled my mind, and it's not easy to do, but the thing that I've realized now is that when people direct their hate and anger at you, it says much, much more about them and how comfortable and happy they are with their life than it says anything or as any reflection on you. And I think that's, how I reconcile things in my mind. 90% of them are probably giving you shit because they wish that they could have written 20 odd books. They've not had the courage to put themselves out there. And they probably look, and it's down to pure jealousy. And like I say, says more about them than it does you. But so how do you find is best to deal with it, apart from just not giving them any oxygen, as Becky said?
I don't look at it.
Right.
I've got a YouTube channel which has about 7,100 on. And I tend not to look outside that. There is 7 or 8 channels that I do look, and the educational. But do you know what? There's people that, YouTube is a vile environment. It really, really is. It's an horrific. Some of the things, and I have this one guy. I'm not kidding you, he must have made about 60 accounts just to tell me I look like a fat lesbian and I'm a knobhead. And I'm like, I already know. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's like, oh, do you know what? I mean, if it's a civil discussion, I'll engage. But you draw a line, don't you?
Yeah.
But it definitely was an eye opener, Graham, when I first started it 5 years ago. And you know what? It has took me. I mean, it got really bad after about 5 books. And as I said, I've only really thought I'm as comfortable as I'll ever be.
Yeah.
But I still have bad days. I still, but I do tend not to look at it. But then again, sometimes you can be a victim of your own ego. And in the early days, I suppose it's the height of narcissism. When you Google yourself and you can read nice comments, but then that bad one will finish you for a day. So, listen, Mother Teresa used to get it. If you Google some of their stuff on YouTube and you read some of the comments and you think, hang on a minute, this is the saint on earth. So what chances of a little knobhead like myself with a bad haircut? Well, I've got no chance. I'm tailor-made for trolls. So I get it. And do you know what? It's just the 21st century, I suppose. It's not even YouTube. It's Do you know what Pablo Escobar used to say? Envy kills more men than cancer. And it's, envy and jealousy.
Yeah.
It's, it's a fine line between, I've had messages from people wanting to be my mate. And because I've got so many, and I haven't seen it, and I haven't, that message, and then the next message has been, who do you think you are? Yeah. So he's went from wanting to be my best friend to hating me.
Yeah.
Do you know? But it's human behavior. Do you know? It's, as I said, it's nothing that I've invented or nothing. And there's far more successful people and more well known.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I suppose it is a sign of success. And if you're if you're going to keep doing this, Graham, and you know, then my advice to you is to still be prolific. Do as many as you can, and to, you know, James English said to me, Jamie, the first thing I see in the morning, the last thing I see at night. But that's how I've got to be. So, you know, I've been in the middle of a paper like 15 times in 4.5 years. So most of that town of Middlesbrough are absolutely sick of the sight of me. So I get it. Do you know what I mean? But it's nothing I can do about it. And when people are bringing my wife and son into it, and I can pretty much handle it, really. But it took me a few years, definitely, to get over it.
Get used to it. Yeah. Well, I think my granny used to say, if they're having a go at me, they're leaving somebody else alone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I've been told of that by a few times. Sean Atwood often tells it to me. Yeah. You know, sometimes his trolls will leave him alone to attack me, and vice versa. But it's very true anyway.
That's awful nice of them, isn't it? What would you say is the best advice that you've ever been given, ever, and by who?
The best advice is, someone said to me in a pub in Glasgow years ago, and I don't even know who it was. I was sat in a pub in Duke Street, and I was stressed out, and he was telling me, I was telling him about losing this job, and he said, you know what? If you're stressed out and you've got a situation in life that you need to focus on, then there's two avenues. Soon as you go left or right, yes or no, north or south, that's 50% of the problem gone. And he said you should always look at it like that. And that's something which has stuck in my head for the last 25 years. And you know what? When I've looked at some of the bad things and all this, and I've always thought, well, do you know what? I'm going with this way now, so I don't need to worry about that way.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of, the problem's been halved, if you like, and that's something I've always kept in my mind, Graham, for the last quarter of a century.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, and it's kind of part of why we call this the JFDI podcast. It's about kind of, you know, not procrastinating in life, and not doing stuff because you're worried about failing, or kind of getting yourself stressed about a situation. It's about taking control, and actually just making a decision and going with it, roll with the punches, take ownership of it, whatever happens. And if it's the wrong decision, then actually it's not really the wrong decision, because you'll learn from it, and you know, and not make that same mistake again, or maybe you will. But like you say, it keeps you moving forward. It's one step after the other, and you keep going, roll with the punches, because you don't build resilience, you don't build mental toughness without some sort of setback and failure in your life, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? I've done books over the years, and I thought this is going to blow. And do you know, when I've had it, it's not done, and I thought, fucking hell, and you know, and that's the thing in life, isn't it? Oscar Wilde said the great thing is not to ensure we don't fall, but to ensure we never fail to get up when we have fallen. And
yeah, and then Rocky said something similar, didn't he?
Right. Okay.
Rocky Balboa said something very similar.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But do you know what? You just got to keep trying and keep trying, and you know, it's like this thing in Russia at the minute. I can sit and be depressed about it because it's ruining my business. No one's got any money for books. COVID's just ruined it. Now it's getting better. And I'm sat thinking, well, what can I do? And I can't. So what's the point? And you should just, you know what? Like, I mean, Reggie Cray said when he got his 30 years, he said, well, I never cried. I used to just think my life has to be like this. And, you know, I think with a lot of things now it's your cards are mapped out, and you know, your fate's been decided already by people playing chess, and just basically try and keep out as trouble as much as you can, keep the people around you, keep your friends, keep your family. And other than that, there's nothing else you can. None of us are that special where we can change the world by ourselves, because yes, we can give it a go, but we can't. And we're just specks of sand, and you know, try and make a difference. But but everything that's happening in the world now is just roll with the punches of life.
Yeah. Well, interesting you say there about things are mapped out. So with that in mind, was it were you were obviously destined to write 23 plus novels, but that had to start somewhere, and before you had written your first book, you hadn't written anything. So how did the very first book come about?
Sorry, I've got anxiety. So I watched Paul Sykes at Large in 2012. So I spent 3 years obsessing over him, and I wanted to know. Yes, I knew. I googled he died.
Yeah.
You know, he was this boxer. He was this most dangerous man in the prison system, and I knew that, but I wanted to know why. So from 2012 to 2015, I become obsessed, and then in 2015, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. So I kind of took my jacket off, said, hold my beer, and walked in the story, met all the characters, produced 3 bestsellers, which has been signed to become a multi-million-pound film by Western Edge Pictures. They're the people who made the Joe Calzaghe film. So my book, along with Paul Sykes, so it's been merged together, and the script has been written from it.
Yeah.
So basically, Graham, I left school early. I left school when I was 15. I didn't have one exam to my name, but I knew I had this passion or desire and commitment to just at least write the Paul Sykes thing. So obviously I had to study a little bit. So I kind of probably went back to school for probably a year. Obviously, there's great help with computers and all this thing and Word, and you know, it's not as daunting as it sounds. And I just basically got addicted to it. And here I am. At the end of this year, I'll have 26 books out. And my plan is to do 100 books. So that's my plan. Some of the people who I've got to meet over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So some of the people who've kind of bought my books and read them, and I'm like, how do you even know who I am? Ricky Gervais, Robbie Williams, Martin O'Neill, Tyson Fury, League of Gentlemen, Bob Mortimer. Look, you know, and you think Alan Shearer, and you know, and it's like,
yeah,
and it's bizarre. Sometimes I see people on Twitter talking about me, and but you know, it all come basically because I got obsessed with Paul Sykes, and without that, I would never have written one book. So basically, I had to. If anyone out there is looking for something to do, go for your passion. You know, listen, we can all be a bin men, and we might last it for a month, but if writing's your passion, or singing, or dancing, or football coaching, or boxing coaching, stuff that you do for free, like I would. I've just done Alan Thompson's book. I used to pay. I mean, here's a fact for you. It might sound a bit far-fetched, but it's true, and I'll tell you. I used to have Alan Thompson posters on my bedroom wall 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, I went on to write his book and speak to so many people, my heroes, John Harton, Chris Sutton.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's only because I followed the passion. And if it wouldn't have been for anything, you know, this might be your passion, Graham. Music, guitar, anything, just follow your passion. Even if
Yeah.
it takes years to get off the ground, that
Yeah.
will keep you off the streets and off the drink and off the drugs. And that's my advice to anyone. And I've got a job now. I've got a job now that I used to once pay to sit in an evening with.
Yeah.
And you know, where now I get paid to talk to, you know, I never quite I never quite get over my looking at my phone, and my phone will be ringing, and I'll say to the wife, look at that, Martin O'Neill's ringing me. And when and when I answer, I've got to pretend that I'm not starstruck. You know, and it's like I can meet lots of lots of stars, if you like, and I'm not really bothered. But if it's anything to do with Scotland or boxing or Celtic, I'm like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, I'd be like, you know, I've spoke to people and I've just been like, I will write your book for free. Just let me hang around with you. Do you know what I mean? So just follow your passion, Graham, and regardless of what it might be, you know, that if you do that, then you can't do wrong, because there's a saying. I know we're going on about quotes, but if you enjoy what you're doing, I can't remember who said it, then you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah. If you make work your passion, you'll never work another day in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Becky's asked, what is your best book?
So, well, do you know what? I'm just finishing a book at the minute called There's Something About Whitechapel. And it's predominantly all about Jack the Ripper, why do Cockneys eat pie and mash, jelly deals, Chaz and Dave, West Ham United, Cockney rhyming slang. And do you know what? I would have done that for free, because you know what? There's nothing I like doing than sitting and studying East End Cockney history.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've got a book signing in Brick Lane in the East End of London in a couple of months. And do you know what? If I get paid a tenner for that book, then I would have done that for free. You know, for some of the people who I've been speaking to, I should be paying them for giving me their time. So, but you know what? Alan Thompson, the Celtic book, he was a guy who I sat in the stands at Celtic Park for years and watched him. And then all of a sudden, he's in my shower singing, and you know, we've become close friends, and yeah. But I think certainly my most successful has been Lee Duffy, The Whole of the Moon. To give you an example, when it was released 4 years ago, it had 30 stolen in the first month from Middlesbrough Waterstones.
Stolen.
So that went mental, and that's what basically took me from just a casual part-time author to, hang on a minute, I could actually do this for a living. I started earning more money from writing books. I'm just trying to think what the job. I mean, you know, I was a labourer, I was a forklift driver, working in security, car park attendant. I did anything basically to provide for my family. Litter picker. I wasn't bothered. And you know what? I thought, well, actually, because when I first started getting involved with books, Graham, I wasn't even sure whether I was any good.
Yeah.
So obviously my first two were Paul Sykes, and then I'd done a boxing book about tales of pugilism. And then it was the Lee Duffy book, and that's what kind of showed me the way, if you like, where I thought, hang on a minute, I might actually be good at this. That's not me saying that. That was people going, oh my God, I bought this book, and you know what I mean? And it's like, and I just started, as you know, it wasn't all the hate. I started getting a lot of nice things, and
yeah,
people asking me for signed photos, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? I'm a nobody. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, I was in, when I'm in Middlesbrough and people want pictures and all that, and I started thinking, this is some kind of wind up. This,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? But there's nothing queer as folk, and you know, people. I've got a lot of kind of cult followers who,
yeah,
regardless of what my books are about, they will buy them. And I'm just so grateful for that. Just so honoured.
yeah,
So it isn't all. I don't. It's not all death threats. And you know, when I first met you, Graham, you know, I've kind of at the minute, because I've suffered from anxiety so badly, my nervous system has developed tics. But when I met you in 2014, I didn't have none of this. So this has all kind of been in the last 5 years.
yeah,
So I'm actually at the doctor's trying to get it sorted out at the minute. So it's certainly been a downside from doing this, and you know, but it's you know, I'm going to be put on a different steroid, and the problem will go.
yeah,
But you know, there's a lot of people when you I don't like to use the word fame because I'm not, but the limelight, and you
mm,
know, a lot of people think, oh well, it's not, because people will just hate you and they've never met you, and people will believe people will believe anything about you. You know, YouTube now, there's so many people have got platforms, and they're all saying he's a nonce, he's a grass, he's ripped charity, and people will believe it without questioning the source of, and that's pretty sad sometimes. Which is the reason why I've suffered kind of anxiety
yeah,
issues and that. But you know, I have good days and bad days. But listen, it's life. There's a lot of people worse off than me out there, and yeah, you know, there's a lot. I get a lot of nice things, and there's so many people that I've got in touch, and I'm like, and they're blown away, and from all over the world, because they're obsessed with Paul Sykes or Lee Duffy or
yeah,
Dominic Negus, Alan Thompson, any of the characters I've done.
yeah,
But you know, true crime sells, and you know, people. I could do a book on a Mr. Nice Guy tomorrow, but would it sell? Probably not. But you know, it's
yeah,
from the psychological aspect. Why are these people like this? They were bullied.
yeah,
All these kinds of different reasons, which makes these people like that. And you know, I certainly haven't glamorized it, but there's a reason why some people turn out the way they do, and people are fascinated by that, and then some people are appalled by that.
yeah. If there was one boxer that you could write about above all others, who would it be?
Well, I speak of Josh Warrington often, and I've got to know Ricky Burns, and
Yeah.
I've had discussions with them. Do you know what? They're the only two people
Yeah.
that I've got to know, because I've met a lot of people, a lot of famous people. I've turned a lot of people's fighters down, but Josh Warrington and Ricky Burns in particular, they're the two people off the top of my head. There's a saying, right? Never
Was
meet
there
your
not?
heroes.
Yeah.
But,
Was there not a
but
discussion with was there a discussion with Scott Harrison?
yes, well, never meet your heroes, because he was a complete nightmare. And that's all I'll say on that. But he was
Yeah.
impossible. I mean absolutely impossible. And the
Yeah.
deal I offered him couldn't be matched.
Yeah.
And in the end, I thought, listen, the guy's he was one of my idols growing up,
Yeah.
but I'm not desperate to be put through and be spoken to like that. But but basically, Josh Warrington,
Yeah.
and Ricky Burns are the two people that I've met. And so, do you know what? Got to know you. Particularly in Josh Warrington's case, I've known him for like 11 years now.
Right.
And I thought you're actually nicer than what I thought you were.
Right.
But but if I'm honest, from a boxing sense, I done Paul Sykes, done Dominic Negus. I'm gonna do Junior Witter. I'm gonna do Nick Manners.
Yeah.
I was in talks with Kevin Mitchell. I didn't do that. Ishan Pickering. I didn't do that. Bobby Vans. There's been a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
But if there's any fighter out there I could do, if I'm being honest, would probably be Ricky Burns or Josh Warrington, and I'm hoping to do them. So
brilliant. Oh, I think they'd be brilliant. And Junior Witter, that'll be good as well. Yeah, that'll be great. What about Mr. Alexander? Anything there?
I did speak with him a couple of years back when I was first starting out, and he was interested.
Yeah.
And I basically said to him, look, if you've got any skeletons in your closet, they're going to come out.
Yeah.
And basically, I Googled his name, and I found out he was doing certain things, and he said, how do you know that? And I said, look, and I said, if you do a book, that's coming out. And that basically just scared him off.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke to Jonathan Woodgate a couple of years back. And he would have been a fantastic book. But then he said, I've got too many skeletons in my closet.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not for everyone. To some people, it can be therapeutic. It can be a weight off the shoulders. And also to some people, it can ruin your life because you've changed and you're bringing that part of your life back, that people, you know, certain parts of people's life that you're not proud of.
Yeah.
So if you want to do it, you need to do it, and you need to be 100% sure that, you know what, no matter what's coming out, you know, I'm a cross-dresser, I'm a dogger. There's some mental stories that have come out, seriously.
Yeah.
But if you have a past, then and if you're pretty big, like for Alan Thompson, for instance, you know, the Sun done his story for a few days, and the Daily Record done it, and you know, I dare say it did bring Alan Thompson a couple of sleepless nights, but it's his past, and it can't be changed. And you know, people started looking at certain aspects of his life that people have forgot about: affairs, bankruptcy, you know, and obviously with the boxing world, there's a lot of villainy in it. So people have been on drugs, people have done a lot of assaults. So 9 times out of 10, the boxers who I've met have very bad pasts, and they've not really wanted to do it.
Yeah, but then everybody, as we're on the quotes, I've got a belter quote that fits this perfectly.
Go on.
Another of Oscar Wilde's: every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. And I think, you know, it's right since starting doing this as well, and it's like I've not hidden anything. And people that watch this podcast regularly, they know what I was like back in the day. Not a villain or a criminal, just an idiot. But at the same time, it's true of us all. There are things about my past that for many, many years I wasn't proud of. But I've forgiven myself for them, because I was 18, 19, 20 when I did this stuff. And to the point of like getting to a point in life, and this is why I'm doing this. It's why I'm doing the radio show. It's why I've written a book. I got to a point in life where if you can't look back and let go of your past and forgive yourself and realize that you are making the most of your life now, you are doing your best on a daily basis, then you really should. You got to let go of it, because it's that sort of stuff, that regret, that bitterness, whatever it is from the past. If you can't let go of that, you know, you may as well just give up. It's like, you know, let it go, be happy with the person you are. And like we've said as well, you know, realize, you said right at the beginning tonight, we only get one shot at this life. And as Mr. Morrison said, nobody's getting out alive. So why not leave it all, as the boxing analysts would say, leave it all in the ring. Make sure that you give it your best shot every single day. And don't beat yourself up on the days that you can't give it your best shot. That's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know, do you know what? There was a lot of things I did. For instance, I had a fight in Middlesbrough Town Centre once when I was a teenager, kind of young boxer, full of myself.
Yeah.
Got 18 months. You know, I was kicked out the army, drug addiction, cocaine. I broke my arm a couple of years back, and I got addicted to
painkillers.
Painkillers, codeine, cocodamol.
Yeah.
And people were blackmailing me, where now I just put it all out in the open so it can be used against me.
Yeah.
But do you know what? You do get to a point, and I've got it in the last year where I've thought everything's coming out. You know, and if you don't want it to, then go away, do nothing, be nothing. And you know, listen, as long as there's certain things that there's no coming back from, things like racism, things like sex offences, beating old grannies up. You can't, in my opinion, come back from things like that. Certainly the sex offences. But listen, we've all made massive mistakes, and as I said earlier, it's a shame we only. I mean, I've only really kind of been a little bit mature from the age of about 35. So, you know, I was really young and stupid, and I never thought. And you know, I think I was arrested 19 times just for things like drunk and disorderly.
Yeah.
I was a little nobody, but I was a daft young lad, and I had a chip on my shoulder. But you know, I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm 42 on Saturday. Do you know what I mean? And it's like some of the things, but some people will never let you move on. And yeah, you know, but
was there one incident at any point in your life that kind of opened your eyes and made you kind of go, all right, Jamie, enough is enough. I've got to do this differently. I've got to move on. This only ends, you know, that sort of this only ends one way type sort of conversation with yourself.
Yeah. So I was, I kind of, you know, people who I've worked with in the past have then spread slanderous, libelous things. But they've also let out things that I told them in confidence, like the addiction to painkillers, which that sounds really mental. Now, when Michael Jackson died in 2009, I remember thinking, how can you be addicted to painkillers? I kind of laughed at it. And believe me, you can, you know. And basically, so I've had like people who were addicted to the worst kind of things mocking and looking down on me. But that's when I thought, you know what? I'm not going to hide it anymore. Listen, it's hardly crime of the century. There's a lot worse things I could have been involved with. That, you know, I've never mugged anyone. I've never been on heroin, or, you know, I've never done the despicable things. Yes, you know, I can. And it was quite late on. This was in my late 30s. You know, and it's something that, you know, we all, when we're young and we experiment with things, like, you know, I'm not sure whether you have, but most people have. But I kind of got this by accident because I gave up drinking for 18 weeks. So when I gave up drinking for 5 months, I started, I mean, obviously I broke my arm at the same time, but I was just kind of doubling them up. So I wasn't out robbing people. I was just taking codeine in bed watching films, and I was thinking, this is brilliant because I'm just relaxed and I can work every day. And you know, months down the line, I had this addiction where it was accidental because I wasn't out. I wasn't out every weekend taking ecstasy and cocaine like people do. I was just give up alcohol, broke my arm. They started shotting things at me for the pain.
Yeah.
And I just found myself with this addiction. But years ago, I should have thought, if someone had told me that story, I'd have laughed. And I wouldn't have believed it, but it's the worst one of all. And but you know, I've had to openly speak about that just so I won't be blackmailed. And if people want to hold it against me, then it's their problem. But do you know, once you come unopen with yourself, and then it can be used against you. So
yeah,
you know, I mean, Alex Reid, he has he's been, you know, you've seen the median, and he just openly talks about it. Yeah, you know, but if you talk about it, then you're taking away that people can't blackmail you with it anymore. Because if you're just saying, yeah, I was addicted to painkillers, or I was into cross dressing, or I was dogging, or I was whatever people have had any, you know, each to their own. But once you just say, well, yeah, so what? Then you're like,
yeah, exactly. You've said dogging quite a few times tonight, mate. You've used that as an example.
Do you know something though? I can't drive. but I get addicted to everything. And do you know what? I probably get addicted to blue
dogging, do you?
blue Smarties. But do you know what? Seriously, I got addicted when I gave up alcohol for 5 months. I started drinking Britvic 55s, and I got addicted to the sugar rush. I used to down them, and then I got addicted to energy drinks. And do you know what? I'm just glad crystal meth hasn't hit this country. No, but seriously, listen, I can't drive because I detached my retina boxing as a young kid, and I've got slight double vision. So if I could have been Graham, I probably would have got addicted to dogging. But no, do you know what? Listen, people have all kinds of different addictions. Eating firelighters, do you know, there's a lot of things people can do and not be proud of. Yeah. We do it under the influence of alcohol. We do it because we're young and stupid. But do you know what? From my experience, and I have lived it, because I've had people blackmailing me and saying you're going to do this and you're going to do that and we're going to expose you. Just if you have a problem, not a problem, but if you've been through something, then talk about it. Yeah. Because if I was still kind of hiding that, it was coming out. It was coming out next month, next year, you know. But my attitude of that is I don't give a shit anymore, and so what? Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, absolute attitude to have. So what's the weirdest thing, that you've come across? Because that you've interviewed must be hundreds of people, getting together all the information for all of these books. What is and you know, and you've got a past of your own. You've seen some stuff, experienced some stuff. Has there been anything, you know, that is like above and beyond everything else, like made you go, what the fuck? Has there been anything like just mega weird?
Yeah, do you know what? The last couple of years, and I have literally interviewed hundreds of people. I know that for a fact because I had a look this week. Footballers, boxers, actors. You know, I mean, Chris Lambrianou took me around. So he got 15 years for his involvement with the Jack the Hat McVitie murder with the Cray twins.
Over the Crays, yeah.
And he took me round and he showed me in the house what happened, and he showed me where the craze said chuck the body on the so, and I was like, that was almost like going back into time. So when was that? So that murder was 67. So that was 2018. 2018. So that was like 51 years before. So that was really surreal.
Yeah, I can imagine. That was for the upcoming book as well. That was for the.
I was talking to him about doing his book, and I think he just gave up. I don't know. I think it's quite upsetting for a lot of people. You know, sometimes in the past, he lost 15 years of his life, and he actual fact didn't kill anyone. He was just he just got involved with the most notorious criminals Britain's ever produced, and he was warned, keep your mouth shut, or your family. You know, he was a young lad, 26 at the time, and that saw him get a life sentence and come out when he was about 41, 42. So, you know, I have got to meet some people where I've been a bit starstruck, and you know, I've got to thank God and thank you for making me watch that Paul Sykes documentary, because if I'd never watched that, Graham, I would never have had any passion or enthusiasm to think, well, actually, do you know what? I want to brush up on my English skills and, you know, kind of stick my nose in people's stories and become probably I kind of become the most prolific author in Great Britain today.
Love it. What would you, so you mentioned earlier on about loves of boxing, Scotland or Celtic.
Yeah.
So does the Scotland, the love of Scotland come from the love of Celtic? Is it vice versa? But you weren't born in Scotland, were you?
My parents are Scottish. And when I was younger, I used to live in Scotland.
Got you.
So I'm kind of essentially a proud Scot. When I was boxing, I boxed in tartan. When I was married, I boxed. Got married in a kilt. So you know, just because I boxed with my face and thought I was Steve Collins and Celtic Warrior, you know, so that's kind of my passions is Scotland, boxing, and Celtic.
Yeah.
And if I can do any work wrapped up in any of them three, then particularly someone like Ricky Burns, Celtic fan, and he's Scottish, and he's Scotland's greatest ever fighter, freeweight world champion.
Freeweight world champion, yeah.
You know, I mean, I've got a few pictures of him, I think, on my back wall. And you know what?
If you're ever doing his autobiography, you need to tell him about this JFDI podcast, and he can come on and talk about his tunes.
Well, I spoke to him quite a lot, or certainly a few times.
What a lovely guy, though, right?
Lovely, he's guy. Lovely. Because I'm good friends with Alex and Christine Morrison.
Got you, yeah.
And his manager. And I spoke to him start of this year, and he said, I'm having 2 more fights, and then I'm going to retire, and then I'll sit down with you. So then it's be my job to basically move heaven and earth and give him a deal which I know couldn't be bettered elsewhere. You know, I would be prepared to dilute my just to be involved. Yeah. And you know, probably. I mean, there's definitely unless someone shoots me for having a bad haircut, or I get struck by lightning, or a piano falls on my head. There's 100 books in me. I'm gonna hit 25, 26 at the end of this year.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could do anyone as probably as much of a hero to me as Ricky Burns.
Ricky Burns, yeah.
So I know I've said to him, listen, just have a chat with me first. And you know, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident that he won't need to go anywhere else. But I think, let me think. He's 39 next week. This month, I think he's 39. So I'm 3 years older than him. So I think he'll go till he's 40. He still lives the life. He's still fit. He doesn't drink.
Yeah.
He's a proper athlete. He might be 38. He might be 38 this month. I can't remember. I think he was born in 83, so he must be 39. But listen, he's Peter Pan, isn't he? And if he went on for another 4 or 5 years, it wouldn't surprise me. But you know, certainly he's the nicest. He's someone that, I know you mentioned Scott Harrison earlier, and my son now, I took him to the Josh Warrington fight of the week. He knows Josh. I've had Josh ringing him on his birthday, and I can't think of any two people outright in football or boxing or anything I'm interested in than Josh Warrington and Ricky Burns for being a role model for my 14-year-old son.
Yeah. And
do you know what? I started this business being obsessed with Paul Sykes. I would have done them 2 books for free. It was never about the money. I didn't even know if they were any good. They might not have sold any. And you know, I've become a professional writer, but you know, I mean, Ricky Burns is one that I thought, you know what, I probably would do this for free. That's how much I would.
Yeah.
You know, I probably shouldn't tell him that, but
No,
that's how much of a pedestal that guy is on.
Yeah, brilliant. So all of these books, and hopefully 100. What a target to set your sights at. But if one of the books was about you, what would Jamie Boyle's life story be called?
That's a great question. You know what? If I'd done it now, I know personally people would think, who the fucking hell do you think you are? Have you seen this? He's writing a book, and I get it. But when I've got 100 books done in 15 years or 20 years or whatever, and you know, I've met a lot of people. I've met some. I've been inside of prisons, and I've had Charles Bronson messaging me, and so many proper film actors. Some people I can't mention. Some people have just reached out to me, and I've thought, fucking hell, how do you even know who I am? And you know, it's essentially it's because of the Lee Duffys, the Paul Sykes. Yeah. But it's certainly, I don't think I'll do it for. It's that book is definitely 10 years away. I'm definitely going to be in my 50s when I do it.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I stick my dictaphone in people's noses. I've done loads of books, but I always write books about other people. But if I had to talk openly about my addictions and some of the things I'm not proud of, it would be really, really hard. But do you know what, Graham? You've just really given me a dilemma, because over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to really start having to think about that. But to answer your question,
yeah,
it would probably be something like, I mean, I'm an accidental author. You know, I watched the documentary at 32. If I'd never watched that documentary, I would never have done one book in my entire life, never mind 20 odd.
Yeah.
So I was an I was an accidental author, because that's what I was.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm the guy who kind of got lucky, because I had 20 years of job after job and being out of work, and when now I've got a job that I've accidentally come across, and I would be brutally honest, but it would bring out a lot of mixed emotions, tears, joy. You know, when we're talking about songs, you can listen to songs and it takes you back into your time.
Yeah.
You know, you get certain smells and that takes you back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so to go back into that would be really difficult. And you know, Alan Thompson, hero man, but he sat in front of me bawling, crying his eyes out.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people crying in front of me. Dominic Negus. Do you know what? To be honest, I've had lots of famous people crying in front of me, and I couldn't really understand it. But because you've asked me this question now and give me a feel, I've actually really understood it for the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose it would be something accidental offer, and
yeah.
you know, I was a nobody, and then all of a sudden I started doing books, and then whether people like me or hate me,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of I'm this figure who kind of brings out mixed emotions, and for good or bad, it's, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good. If that question stumped you, I've only got a couple left. My time has flown tonight. That's been an hour and 10 minutes, mate, and it's absolutely flown. If that question's difficult, here's one. I love this question because I was asked this. Caused me a bit of a dilemma. I think because of when I was asked it. So if you could have one album, one person, one movie, and one book to accompany you on a desert island,
What's the first question?
So one album.
One album would be The Best of the Smiths.
Yes. One person.
My wife.
Yes. One movie.
Joker.
Oh.
Well, do you know what? I used to love a film called Filth. And I watched Joker a couple of years back, and I got it cut, but I've grew it back a bit, and I went for the Arthur Fleck look, and the wife said, "Well, Jamie, you do know he's only got that look because he's playing a psychiatric mental patient." But I just think that film it was like I was thinking about it for days after I watched it, and it's such a powerful, thought-provoking movie that, you know what, in different ways we can all relate to Arthur Fleck. We've all been. I spent a lot of time in London, and I've given some change to people, and I've spoken to them. And the common demeanor in where they are is basically one giant episode of the wife leaving him or the mum dying. And do you know what? That can happen to any of us. So do you know what? It's humbling. And you know, I suffer. I'm ravaged with mental illness. I really am. So I get that film. And every 6-7 months I'll always watch it. So The Joker is there's a picture of it in the back actually, but that's my favorite film of all time.
Brilliant, great choice. And finally, one book.
Can
I have one of your own if you want? Any book.
That's really narcissistic. Yeah, Alex Reid always winds me up about that because we have a bit of a laugh. We're talking about Googling each other, and that's really narcissistic, sociopathic behavior. Reading your own book, but do you know what? I mean, I'd probably say the Bible.
Right. Okay. There we go. I've got that. That's a great selection. Great selection there. Okay, I have to ask you this one. I've got two teams here. So your favourite Celtic player ever?
So my favourite Celtic player ever. So I've got a dog called Georgie Samaras, My one before that was Colo Torre. One before that was Henrik Larsson, but I named my son Jameson Lennon Boyle. So Neil Lennon.
Right.
Obviously, I've just done Alan Thompson's book, who's his best friend. Neil Lennon's read it, and Neil Lennon, if you're watching, I'll write your book for free, mate. He's someone. He is my hero of all heroes. So Neil Lennon.
Brilliant. And what about your favourite Borough player?
I've never been a Middlesbrough supporter ever.
Have you not? Never really.
I've only ever supported Celtic or Celtic reserves.
Right. No Borough. Okay, you can scratch that.
Celtic or Scotland. Yeah.
That's
Celtic,
okay,
that's
because I do have. I know that you've lived a big period of your life in that neck of the woods. So, I've got two more questions for you, and I am the last.
Well,
question.
To be honest, Graham, I've got a Middlesbrough accent, so.
So the last question I'll ask you, I'd be very surprised if there wasn't an answer to this question. But the question I'm going to ask you right now, we've spoken about money not being the be all and the end all. But if you had £100 million, what would you do with it?
I'd buy a home next to Celtic Park and a home in Whitechapel. Every year I holiday in Whitechapel in Glasgow. So London and Glasgow. I mean, there's a saying by Samuel Johnson, which I've just used it for one of my new books, which is when a man is tired of London, he's tired of life. And everything of interest to me is in London or Glasgow.
Yeah.
So I would. The answer to the question is, I'd buy a box at Celtic Park and have a home in Glasgow, and I'd have a home in London, and that's about it. I really am that uncultured.
I wouldn't say uncultured. I'd say you know what you like. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. One last question. I did a post last week when I registered on MyFitnessPal the number of calories in what I'm going to ask you about, and I didn't regret a morsel of what I had eaten, but it blew me away. And my final question for you tonight, Mr. Jamie Boyle, is what is your Parmo order, sir?
Well, do you know what? I box from 92 to 97, and I was never heavier than a featherweight. I don't think I'm making featherweight anytime soon. You know what? I'm 5'8", so I'm not the tallest. And I'm 15 stone 6. So I'd like to get down to 13 stone. But you know what? I'll give you another saying, right? Crystal meth users should never underestimate the withdrawals from the Parmo. So basically, the Parmo is Middlesbrough's dish. It's pork or chicken with bechamel sauce, cheese. And I've given a lot of famous people Parmos, boxers, Ishan Pickering, Gary Sykes, Wayne Alexander, Alan Thompson, footballer. I've probably give lots, probably more than that. It's something which used to be quite expensive. When I first started eating them, they were like £5 back in '93.
Yeah.
And it's something which, have you ever had one?
Oh, the reason I've asked is my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, obviously how I met you, they live down there. So every time I go down to visit them, it's a hot shot, usually a large hot shot Parmo, extra garlic sauce, laden on top. eat all the chips. Yes, I've had my fair share of Parmos.
It's do you know what? It's I mean, John Hartson loves a Parmo. Tyson Fury pays a taxi driver to drive to Middlesbrough, pick one up. Honestly, I don't know. It's a Middlesbrough dish, and
What's
you
your,
know,
what's your favorite?
I'll probably eat two, just the original, the pork Parmo. But you know what? There's no point complaining my weight, because I do. You know what? I was probably having at 1.45 Parmos a week. Where now I probably have one once a month, once a week. Once a week, I have one once a week. To be honest, I have 4 or 5 a month. But I was having them a week. But do you know what? If anyone who doesn't know what they are, Google them.
Yeah.
And next time you're down this neck of the woods, Graham, I'll give you the shout. Next time I'm up there, which I will be quite a lot this year.
Please.
I hope my anxiety hasn't been too bad. I get a bit embarrassed about it. I can't help it at the minute. I have good days and bad days. Send me your link for your channel and I'll share it on all my platforms. I've got about 17. And I'm a big supporter of your channel, mate, from now on. And send me the link and I'll give it a subscription. I'll get all my 7,000 to follow you.
Thank you very much indeed. And listen, thank you so much for coming on, for giving me your time. Your story.
Well, if you need any guests, send me your number, and I can send you a couple of footballers or boxers. Obviously, my phone is the who's who now, I suppose. You know, so I can put a few people your way. Obviously, I know your passion with boxing, and I done a podcast the other week with Gary Sykes, 2-time British champion. I can get Gary, no problem. He's a good friend of mine. he's had a Parmo at my house. I'll send you the picture after this. He's been to sleep at my house a few times.
Yeah.
He's been on hard times last couple of years since he retired, but he's a lovely guy, Gary.
Yeah.
You know, so listen, it's all about helping each other, mate. So if you send me the link to your channel, we can help each other, and absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Whereabouts can people find out more about Jamie Boyle, your books, on social media?
So I'm on Twitter at Jamie Boyle 10. I'm at Instagram, Jamie Boyle Author. Facebook, Jamie Boyle Author page. YouTube is Warcry Publishing. And all my 20 books, in fact, sorry, I've put 3 in the bin. So I've got 17 books on Amazon, 3 documentaries. I've got 3 finished that coming out next couple of weeks. So just all on Amazon, all on eBay. You can order any of my books in all 283 war zones across Great Britain. And obviously I've done a few on gangsters, true crime, comedies, footballers, boxing.
Wow.
So I'm, you know, as I said, unless someone assassinates me, you know, I mean, one of my friends says I'm the new Salman Rushdie when he done Satanic Verses and everyone wanted to kill him. But yeah. You know, he was the most hated author in the world. So just Amazon, just all the big platforms, audio, and you know, I'm going to be writing a lot of books yet anyway, so I'm not going to be finished just yet.
Good man. Well, just a couple of people just will say good night to everyone.
Thank you, Becky.
Tuned in, and also Gary. He said,
"Thank you, Gary.
Real pleasure, sir." Jamie Boyle, it's been it really has been my pleasure. Please stay in the virtual green room for a minute, and we can have a chat. Any final words for this evening's viewers?
Well, just my apologies. I do suffer from anxiety, which has probably been a bit bad, but can't help it. And just thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you so much for all your love and interest and support.
Thank you very much. And we shall see you next time on the JFDI podcast.